Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bottomline, where we explore the ideas, experiences, and leadership behind successful businesses. And today's conversation is about something every entrepreneur needs but may overlook, right? So building a business on the right foundation. So joining us today is Ms. Caryn Myers, who's the founder and director of Myers Attorneys. With years of experience advising businesses of all sizes, and she has helped many entrepreneurs navigate the legal, strategic, and leadership decisions that determine whether a business survives or thrives, right? So, Ms. Caryn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So I want to start, so we know that every successful business, right, has a story, and behind every entrepreneur is a defining moment that changes everything, right? So take us back from the beginning. What inspired you to establish Myers Attorneys, and what was the vision to set that was set up to achieve your business?
So I think really primarily I did the usual, my law degree, did my articles, worked in a law firm, and I just really, and it sounds terrible, but I really didn't like the way lawyers acted. The things people say about lawyers are mostly true. And I really wanted to be in a position where, you know, even if you're a small business, you need governance, you need compliance, you need legal. And I wanted to have a firm that could work with businesses to help them have that without the requirement of a massive law firm and the massive fees that went into it. So really our why is every business should be able to have access to good legal advice and business advice, and that shouldn't come with a huge, massive price tag. So we always want to make money, so money is important, but it's also important for us that businesses get good advice, irrespective of the size.
Okay, so building from that, we know that starting a business is never a straight line, right? There's so much to put in. So looking back, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in growing your law firm, and how did those expectations shape the leader you are today?
So I think some of the biggest challenges we had is, and I just want to say to people often, make hard decisions early. And we in the beginning, those are some of the things we didn't do. We didn't make the hard decisions early. And usually those hard decisions come with some type of a consequence, whether it's money or people. And one of the few things that the challenges we had or the learnings that we had was we could do everything. You know, so I didn't need an accountant, I didn't need this, I didn't need that, I could do it myself, and you can't. It's bad for business, it's bad for business working. And also, when I did get an accountant, I was like, well, that's not my job, so the accountants there can do it, and I didn't take enough interest into the business of the business. And I think, you know, how it shapes now and how we look at it now is, you know, people say work in your business, work on your business, not in your business. And you have to get to a point where, as a founder or whatever business owner, you're working on your business, not in your business.
True. So in your experience, right, I know there's so many misconceptions about entrepreneurs and about starting your own business. So what are the most common mistakes that entrepreneurs make that prevents great businesses from reaching their full potential?
So I think, you know, businesses don't fail because they've got a bad product. I don't think that's the case. I think they fail because, like I say, they don't make hard decisions early, and they look at governance, compliance, legal compliance as a standard, but actually it's the flaw.
True.
So those type of things are the foundations. Those are the things you need to look at, and every business should have it. Not every business needs a corporate level governance structure, but every business needs something. And I think the ones who fail are the ones who, they don't have the hard conversations about ownership and benefit and who, you know, shares in the business. They don't have contracts, or they sign bad contracts. You know, they do things on trust, and it's all good and well, but trust doesn't, you know, pay the salary at the end of the day.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So when starting a business, right, your focus is, you have a vision, right? And your vision to make yourself better and, and all of that. So many entrepreneurs focus on getting customers first and worry about the legal side later. From your perspective, why is that such a risky approach?
So, and again, I say to people when I talk to them about businesses, if you were buying a business, any business, and it doesn't matter how much it was, if it's 1 rand, 10 rand, 10 million rand, you would go to that business and you say, look, I'm investing money. So I want to make sure you've got all this stuff. Do you have contracts? Do you have shareholders agreements? Do you have meeting minutes, etc.? And that's a reasonable ask. So as an entrepreneur, if you think about how much time you spent on your own business, time, effort, money, why don't you have that in your own businesses?
True.
And yes, so it is important to focus on making money and doing it. But if you don't have governance, compliance, all you have is unmanaged risk, and at some stage, growth is not, you can grow and you'll grow quickly because you're focusing on your product and your why and your business, but growth is not necessarily a sign of good business or resilience, because it'll highlight your weaker areas as well. So the quicker you grow, the quicker the gaps are going to come.
So if I had to start a business today with limited resources, right, what legal foundations should I prioritize from day one, both for myself and for my business?
So I would look at things like and they're always triggers. So if anything's going to cost you money, then make sure you've got contracts around it. If it's going to cost you money or make you money. So if you want to rent somewhere, have a contract in place. What does that agreement say? If you're selling services to clients, make sure you've got an agreement. So money would be one. People is your second trigger. If you're hiring people, make sure you're doing it properly. You've got basic contracts. Anything with data these days is important. People, you need to manage that. You need to make sure you've got good IT systems, good, antiviruses, etc. So I think if you're starting a business with limited resources, like I say, you don't need a corporate governance suite. It's not, you need to build proportionately to where you are. But also what I would do is surround yourself with good advisors early. So whether it's tax, whether it's legal, whether it's business, whether it's product development, etc. Because you don't want to be able to find those people in an emergency. That's the last thing you want. If you have a crisis and now you're looking for those people. So build those relationships early. They don't cost anything. They're good relationships to have. And people who want to partner with you will be happy to give you advice and input at no cost.
Okay. Speaking on relationships, even the strongest relationships need clarity, right?
Yes.
So why should entrepreneurs never underestimate the importance of contracts? Even when working with friends or family.
Working with friends and family is worst.
So please take us through that.
No problem. I think that's the problem, right? You want to work with friends and family, but you actually don't know about their work ethic, how they handle money, how they do business, etc. And it's almost like if you're working with partners, it's the same concept of why you should have an ANC if you're getting married. It's not to protect you now, it's to protect you when you fight. Because now you're happy, and so you can agree. But when you're fighting, those things are very difficult to agree on. So I think it's really important, again, whether you are having a business and you've got 3 people, have a shareholders agreement. Have an agreement that talks about who does what is the ownership of shares, when you're going to do profits, who runs the business, who runs what part of the business. Understand that there's those silos that people are responsible for. With clients, make sure you've got contracts that talk about what you're going to give them, and what they're not going to pay for, what they are going to pay for. All of those things are really, really important. And sometimes no contract is better than a bad contract, because a bad contract is very difficult to get out of. And it's really important that, so I say to people, one, either own the narrative, so you write the contracts yourself. Please don't ChatGPT them, but or ChatGPT them, then send them to someone else.
Yeah.
But you own the narrative, so write those contracts. So if you can own that, you can own that development, you can own how you develop your contracts, how you develop terms. That puts you in a much stronger position down the line, rather than signing someone else's And if you're signing someone else's, make sure you read it top to bottom, because there'll be some clause somewhere which says you have to have 3 years notice or something like that. And those, by the time it gets to page 20 of contracts, no one wants to read them anyway. And that's where all the, the fine print is that's going to catch you in the end.
Okay. So I want to practicalize a conversation, right? Without mentioning names, obviously. Sure. So can you share a situation where a simple agreement or the lack of one, like you said, made all the difference? What lesson should every entrepreneur take from that?
So I think, I'm trying to think of a good practical example. I mean, there are a few. We've got a client who they have a business in South Africa. The business has been going for years. They've never taken the time to register their trademark, put service level agreements in place. There's now a company in the UK that now wants to sue them because they have registered the trademark, and they say they own the mark, and so forth. The company here can't use them. And that's a really simple fix. Register your trademark, own it, you've got that protection. It's not difficult, but again, it's something people don't think about. Overlook. We have another client who, we were actually just talking about him this morning, entered into an agreement with a company. He's a shareholder, but didn't put any shareholders agreements in place. So it doesn't talk about shareholder meetings, it doesn't talk about profits, his role in the business. And he as a shareholder said, okay, he'll do a lot of work on a tender, and now he said, well, I should be paid for that, and there's no agreement in place. So now you've got to go all the way back to the beginning and find emails and WhatsApps and those type of things to show that he actually contributed to the work on the tender.
So let's put you in a spotlight.
Okay.
So you as a legal advisor, you've had a front row seat to businesses navigating both growth and crisis. From your experience, what separates entrepreneurs who successfully navigate difficult seasons from the ones that don't?
So, look, being an entrepreneur is difficult. Yeah. It's it's not easy, and it's not for everyone. But I think the ones who are more successful are the ones who understand, they separate themselves from the business. So that's your first thing. Like, don't mix your money with business money. So pay yourself a salary, don't buy your groceries, don't have one bank account. From day one, separate yourself from the business. So I think those that have been able to navigate challenges from a financial perspective are ones who have separated themselves. So the business may be good, they may be poor, but at least they're separate. So I think that's one thing. Secondly, I think entrepreneurs who succeed are the ones who are happy to ask for help. So I think, you start your own business. Firstly, there's some people who are judgy about that. Some people who think you should work a job, be secure, etc. Starting your own business is a risk. And so there's not often a lot of support, but ask for help. And like I say, have your trusted advisors around you, and before make hard decisions early. So I think the ones that succeed recognize that, and they make those decisions early. They don't wait because it's their friend, or they don't want to upset anyone, or they don't want to get any future business, so they'll wait to be paid, etc. It's the guys who make those hard decisions early.
So from your experience again, how has your understanding of leadership evolved since starting your own business or your entrepreneurial journey?
It has substantially. I think, I used to be, as a leader, which used to be as a founder or whatever, I felt like you had to do everything. It was your job, you're the boss, you're responsible, so you need to make sure everything gets done. And you can get stuck in like a founder syndrome where you're the only person. And we went through that with my business for a while. Clients would only deal with me. They didn't want to deal with anyone else. From my colleagues' perspective, if there was a problem, they always came to me. And so I realized that actually good leadership, in my mind, is letting people do the jobs that they're meant to do. And giving them space to do what they need to do, and listen to them. So we're now in a position where I have a management team, and they are very happy to challenge me. And often I lose, But that's a good thing,
It
you
is.
know. And I think that leadership is really, if you're growing a business and you have employees and staff and partners and whatever, it's about serving that business. It's all about me and I'm the most important person and I'm the only one who can do it. Because not only you'll burn out, your staff won't be happy, your clients won't be happy because you won't be able to perform. So really, from an evolution perspective, I've really moved from it's all about me and I need to do everything and I need to be in every room to really giving people the space to do their job that they want to do and they're good at, and let them, breathe and be responsible for it.
Okay. So building a business, right, starting a business is one thing, right? And building one remains relevant and sustainable over time is another thing. So what, in your opinion, are the key ingredients of a business that stands in the test of time?
First and foremost, good financial management. Like it's the key. It can be anything else. You can have a great product, but if you don't have someone who's looking at the numbers all the time, we say we would not have made it through COVID if we hadn't had our financial manager, without a doubt. And he's the guy, he puts the brakes on all the time. So, he's not the most popular guy, but he's the guy who makes sure the business is running. So ones who are sustainable, make sure that they, not necessarily outsource, but if it's not your job, make sure you have someone who's looking at it and looking at your numbers and trust them. Secondly, I think people who have good foundation. So you have good, and it's boring, right? It's boring stuff. It's the admin. You have employment contracts and you have policies and procedures and you have service level agreements and contracts with your clients and you have credit applications and shareholders agreements. So you have all the paper and you use it. So it's not sitting in a drawer, and it's difficult and you've got to find what works for you as a business. So I think the ones who are sustainable really look after their financials. Cash flow is king. Make sure that someone is on that all the time, because again, it's not your job necessarily. You want to make money, you want to run your business, so don't get stuck in those type of things. Find someone to do it for you. Make sure you can mitigate as much risk as possible, and that's contracts, and that's understanding your contracts and being present. And then I think the ones who are most sustainable are the people who just are open and transparent. And upfront with clients, engage with your clients and your customer. And if something's wrong, tell them something's wrong. Don't try and hide it. Be open and honest. Most people will be understanding, as long as you are. And I say to my staff, my clerks, don't tell me when the house is on fire and burning down. Come and tell me before that so we can manage it. Because when it's burning down, there's very little I can do to rescue it.
Okay. So you mentioned one of the risks about, you as an entrepreneur starting a business and everything. So you said that you as an entrepreneur, when you give a job to people, you give a job that you know how to do, right? So what are the risks of, because I know businesses don't want to paying, like taking out money is something else, right?
Yes.
So what is the risk behind that when you employ one person and expect them to do everything in the business? Marketing, like everything else.
Yeah. So I think the risk is no one can do, you can't pivot, right? So let's say I give you two jobs. So you're going to do marketing and finance, for example. And you say, okay, fine, you spend 50% of your time here, 50% of your time here. That's not the case. What you do is you spend more like 30% of your time here, 30% moving to the side, because there's a mind shift now. I'm doing one thing, and now I have to sort out my desk, process, move to this thing. So if I'm doing finance, maybe finance and marketing is an arbitrary thing. But if I'm busy doing invoices and accounting and those type of things, I have to put all of that away. I then have to focus, and now I'm doing marketing. So now I've got to do client-facing work, etc. And you face burnout, unhappy staff. Look, as an entrepreneur, if it's just you, sometimes you have no option. You have to do it. And you do what you need to do. But the minute you are doing too many things, you're also you detracting from what you are good at and what you love, and that'll show. So not only will you be not good at the things you don't like, you'll start to become worse at the things you do like. So yeah, there's a massive risk of hiring people, one person to do multiple things. One, they're going to miss something at some stage. They're going to drop a ball, they're going to miss something. Two, you can't pivot that quickly. So you're not going to be able to spend, even if it's 50% of your time, you're going to spend 10% on your time on everything, and that's not going to have good output for anyone. So yes, and you don't want to spend money. So what I would then look for is either part-time, or someone who can do something part-time or half day, or even you get virtual assistants or whatever. Spend that money, because the time, again, yes, no one wants to spend the money, but if you spend 5 hours on admin, that's 5 hours you can't spend making money for your business. So you have to weigh the pros and cons of it.
Okay. So looking ahead, where do you think young people should put their focus on when starting their businesses? And what do you believe the biggest opportunities lie for young entrepreneurs over the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think, there's obviously a big technology boom. So I think there's massive opportunity I think it's substantially easier to start a business today, given technology and remote working. You don't have to have an office. You can do Teams meetings. So I think those things are benefits. But I think the businesses that work and where people should be looking at things where you can solve a problem. So a gap. We work a lot with the green economy. I think that's gonna be a substantial growth, especially in South Africa, whether it's, and not necessarily recycling, but hydroponics or organic farming, using anything that's kind of from a green perspective. I think the world is going that way, and from an African perspective, we have the resources to do that. We have the space. We have the opportunity to look at that. But I think you need to look at technology and how technology can move you closer to people, not further away from people. People still like connection. So even the fact that you can have remote working, or you can shop online, people still like human connection. So if you can find a combination of technology that brings people together, that makes people's lives easier, I think that that's something that you should be looking at, definitely.
So here in our podcast, we love putting a spotlight on women in leadership spaces, right? So I want to ask you questions regarding you leading as a woman in leadership role, right?
Yes.
So you've built a successful business as in a profession where leadership often comes up with unique challenges. What advice would you give to women who aspire to build successful businesses while remaining authentic to who they are?
Yeah, it is tough. I think you always have to. It may sound overly feminist. But you're always going to have to work harder than everyone else in the room. I've been in rooms where someone will say to me, "Oh, are you the secretary? Oh, you had to take minutes." Look, it was a while ago, but that's still. I've been in front of clients where I had a clerk who was male and had set up an appointment for me, and the client said, "Oh yes, I spoke to your boss," because that's the assumption, right?
True.
The assumption is the man must be the boss. So I think it really is, and it is hard. It is hard, but you need to have a good self-belief. You need to understand that comes with sacrifice. But I also think in order to make it, it's not about it. For me, I heard this, I was at an event years ago, and the lady who was speaking spoke about, it's not about a glass ceiling, it's about sticky feet. So women shouldn't have sticky feet. They shouldn't be worried about, should I do this, should I do that? If it works for you and you feel it, and you talk about women's intuition and gut, if that's something you feel, do it. Speak up, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to voice yourself. Like, if you've got an opinion, voice it. If you feel that you are diminished or whatever, make sure that work hard. You are going to have to, women will always have to work harder. Not always, hopefully, but currently you've got to work harder to get where you need to be. That being said, I think there is a lot of growth for women in leadership. Women need to support each other better. There's a reason it's called a boys' club, because boys support themselves. But we don't have a women's club.
True.
Women don't tend to support as much as men do, and I think that needs to change. But you spoke about being authentic, and I think that's really important. Don't change. Don't become more bossy, more manly, more whatever. People will say, "Oh, you're being emotional." Okay, well, that's fun, cool, whatever. I think own your own narrative all the time. Don't let people tell you where you should be or what you should be or how you should be doing. Own it and do it. And women are amazing. They can do plenty of things. So there's a reason why women can multitask. So you can run a house and run a business and have a kid, and it's hard and it's not easy, but I think you can do it. And I think it is important. One of the most important things to be successful about it is to be authentic and keep, you to your true self.
Okay. So when you think about leaders who leave a lasting impact, what qualities do they all have in common?
So I think, one, they listen. So good leaders are those who listen to the people around them. Whether that is the receptionist or the tea lady or their head of finance, they listen. They spend the time, they listen to people, they allow people the room to grow, to do what they need to do. And they understand that they're not the most important person in the room. So I think that's if you want to grow, if you want to be a great leader, you need to understand that there are people who are more intelligent than you. There are always going to be people who are better than you at something. Find those people, listen to those people, take advice from them. And I think those are the great leaders. They know they're not the most important person in the room. They listen to advice or ideas from anyone. And they really give people room to grow and find their own spaces.
Okay. So you, as Caryn Myers, leading Myers Attorneys, when people reflect about you, right, from years from now, what do you hope they'll remember about you?
So I really hope that people remember that at least I really try and create the best environment I can, whether it's for my clients, whether it's for my staff, and I want people to remember that that I listened to them, I gave them room, that I was fair, and that from a client perspective, that I understood their business and I took time to understand who they are and what they needed, because everyone is different and everyone has different needs, different wants, and it's important to see those people and hear them. And so hopefully people will say, that was something, because you can build a huge empire. You can have millions of rands or dollars or whatever and loads of businesses and properties. It really doesn't mean anything. I think you want to be remembered as someone who took the time to share with other people and listen to other people and to collaborate with them. So for me, that would, if people spoke about me like that, I think I would be fairly happy with that.
So the future of a country is us young people, right? Mm-hmm. So many of the people watching today are students, graduates, and aspiring entrepreneurs, right? Who want to build businesses that solve problems, that want to create jobs and leave a lasting impact. So I want to know from you, if you had just 1 minute to speak directly to them, what message would you leave with the next generation of entrepreneurs in South Africa?
I would say, I think this moment in time is amazing for the youth. I think the opportunities are massive. So don't give up, find something you want and find a way to do it. Don't expect people to give you anything. That's not the way the world works. Ask though. So don't expect things just to come to you. Ask for an internship, ask for advice, do free work. It doesn't make any difference. If you have a field you want to be in and you want to start a business, get that experience and get it any way you can. But I think that really in South Africa, I'm positive, you know, and I understand there's a lot to be negative about and a lot not to be positive, but I really think that there's massive opportunity. We just have to work hard, focus on it, find a mentor, find someone you can speak to, and really get advice from people who have done it before you and who you look up to and who you can say, this is the type of business person I want to be. So I want to spend some time with you, and do the hard work. It doesn't come easy and it doesn't come quickly, but if you do the hard work and you focus and you believe, then I think, you know, the world is your oyster.
Okay, that was the last question. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think we've learned a lot, that building a business doesn't just take a brilliant idea, but there's so much more to go beyond that, right? It's about laying the right foundation. It's about doing research into, you know, what's out there and what can help you. So that was very insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I loved it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this conversation has reminded us that building a successful business is not just about having a brilliant idea, but it's about laying the right foundation, making the wise decisions, and leading with integrity. For everyone watching and listening, remember this. A successful business is not built in one day, but it's built decision by decision, relationship by relationship, and value by value. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Beyond the Bottomline. And I am your host, Ms. Pamela Morare. Until the next time, keep learning, keep building, and keep going beyond the bottom line.